So good evening to everyone. Welcome to Real Talk, our usual Monday afternoon, Monday evening social media program, United Workers Party. And tonight, we're going to say a special good night to all our viewers, those who are listening via other means. We're going to say a good night to you, special good night to you. And to Dominica and Dominicans, let me say good evening to you. We know our country again has been affected by some heavy rainstorm over the weekend, and we know a number of persons have been affected. Well, tonight we are going to discuss some of the happenings and what has been happening and what is the way forward going forward. And with me, I have Dr. T.C. McDonald Thomas with us tonight, and Dr. Thomson, Fontaine, political leader. McDonald Thomas, of course, is our international secretary. And I know, gentlemen, welcome tonight. I know both of you gentlemen were on the ground very early. Political leader, you had the opportunity to go around the island, at least in most places where we got affected or where persons were affected. And I believe, based on what is happening, we get quite a lot of feedback from you all. I heard you on the radio today, and ball by ball giving updates, both you and Dr. Thomas, and also our president. And so I must admit, based on the feedback that I got, people called me and tell me that you like the approach. You are not even sitting as Prime Minister yet, and you have actually went out as a concerned group. And that is the kind of spirit people seem to be appreciating with respect to the response. So congrats to you all and the team for a quick response with respect to an assessment on the ground, and not only just an assessment, not yesterday, but first hand. So tonight with us, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you listening, we have our political leader, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, and we have our international secretary with us, Dr. McDonald Thomas. Dr. McDonald Thomas, welcome to the program. Just a few introductions.
He has exited. I'm sure he'll come back. He may be having a little bit of technical issues.
Well, Doc, I see there. Tell us what is happening. Yes, he'll get back in.
Yeah, well, so good night. And of course, to our many listeners, it's a pleasure to be back on your radios and television sets and devices. This is Real Talk, of course, and it's it's going to be a very interesting Real Talk, because we are going to be taking you to the ground. We're going to be taking you to the sport of the activity. We'll be giving you an update on what's going on. In fact, as we left Cassibros, the Domlec guys were working overtime there to try to restore power, because there is no power right now in Cassibros and the Kalinago territory. And they're working very, very diligently to restore that. In some areas, because of the landslides actually removed a post. And so there's no electricity, and they were working, just a number of landslides all over the country. And the pictures that you've seen does not do justice to towards the real situation. One of the things that I was really shocked about, and what surprised me the most, is just the large number of landslides within the Kalinago territory and Atkinson. So although we focus very heavily on the main activity where the houses went down, but there were other throughout the Kalinago territory. We counted about 8 or 9 landslides that just coming down. There's one family, for example, where we went, the house was filled with dirt. Dirt came down, a landslide came down and actually filled the entire house, And so we have those. We have some very compelling video and pictures that we share with you. And we also have Dr. T.C. Thomas as well, who was there with us throughout the day. He'll be able to share his views as well and does the experience, because it's quite something talking to the people and just been there and to see the sadness and to see the sense of loss, because after you've, imagine you have built your home, it's a beautiful home, and then you've seen it in that state and it's no longer usable. When the house is, it cannot be used again. I saw a number of persons were asking, for example, can they rebuild? Can they straighten the house? No, you cannot live there, because the whole area is very, very unstable, and there's a potential for it to continue to slide. That's not even an option of the homeowners remaining where they are. But as I said, as we go through, we'll show you the pictures and we'll have a discussion around these types of natural disasters, what we should be doing to better prepare and to better, guarantee that the losses that we have are in fact minimized.
Yes, and so Dr. TC is back with us. And so, Dr. TC, I was just asking for your introductory remarks with respect to the topic tonight.
Yes, so nice being with you, Dr. Fontaine on Real Talk. I think this is my first time on Real Talk.
Welcome.
Happy to be here. It was a very interesting day, to say the least. We did quite a bit of walking today. I was amazed, and it was just heart-wrenching to see the devastation that happened in the Kalinago territory as we went through today, and we looked at the roadblocks were the least of the problems, really. But it seems almost as if the whole lower half of the road that was just built is actually slipping into the sea. And it was, when you take all the way from Antrizal, going all the way into the Kalinago territory, you could see landslides, you could see cracks in the earth below the roads. But of course, the good part about all of this is there was no loss of life. But we did a lot of walking around today and speaking to a lot of people, and we got a lot of interesting information. So I'm standing by to hear what, to continue in the show, hear your questions, and as we progress along the show.
Yes, thank you. I know, gentlemen, it's interesting that, our country, that we are prone to disasters, natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, and so we're quick. We're in that realm, in that belt. And so every country has to have what they call a response plan to disasters. And it is not because something happened now that we just have to be reactive. Supposed to be proactive with respect to, what is happening. And Doc, I know you have some picture to share. I don't know if you want to share it and then react, but
yes, let us share it so that we can
yes. Right. So you could do that.
And the scope.
Do that, and then we'll go along. Yes.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share a few short videos with you and kind of walk you through this. And as you said, so we're lucky there was no loss of life. In one of those cases, the lady was in the house and she was carried down about 500 or so, probably in 1,000 meters, carried down on a floor of mud and dirt, and she survived, but she was traumatized. I spoke to her this afternoon, and she was still out of it, still very traumatized. She's been taken care of, by the community. They have rallied, around her and given her good support, but it was a very traumatic event. Imagine you in your house and your house is being dragged down. You don't know if the house is going to break apart, if it's going to sink beneath the dirt and so on. That never happened, thankfully. It rode the dirt down. And she survived. But that's the kind of things that we had. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple of these activities there. And you will see for yourself, some of it. So we are going to start with this one here, which we should be able to
going towards the road.
All right.
And this house, I'm told, came all the way down from there and was pushed almost in whole, almost intact, pushed down by the mud as the soil moved. Well, it's a sunny morning, the day after here just here in the Kalinago territory, and we're viewing some of the damage that was done yesterday. And up here, this is the road, going towards the road, and this house came all the way down from there and was pushed almost in whole, almost intact, pushed down by the mud as the soil moved down to where it came to rest, right here. You can see the earth has moved, and even a huge chasm has been created right here. Now I'm told that there is another house below this mound that you can see right there.
We are not seeing the video, yeah?
Down below there, which we'll take a look at. But you have people just here watching, observing what's going on. Here, the gentleman whose house was lost they're doing some work to retrieve his belongings from what you can see there. It's a very delicate operation that is ongoing there in this home, but this is quite something. I mean, to see it is unbelievable, simply unbelievable. Well,
okay, so that is one of the
down to where
of the views. Let me show you another.
So here we are. So here we are. Some perspective. Now I'm going to take you to see how this other house has been moved. It was right here in this location, right here, and it's gone now all the way down.
Wow.
Below there. In fact, you can see.
Oh my God.
The soil, major movements there in this area.
How is it going? I didn't know what my mom said.
It's amazing.
So this house.
To see how this other house has been moved. It was right here in this location, right here, and it's gone now all the way.
Okay, I think we've seen this one already.
All the way
down.
Yeah.
Yes, we've seen this one.
Right. So let me just show you some pictures now.
Well, I'm here in.
And then we'll come. Okay, let's.
This is the bridge that joins.
Let me talk about this a little bit and then I'll show you some of the other pictures.
Yes, we need a little interpretation with those pictures.
That we have.
Interesting.
We probably can do some of the sharing this way so that you can see. The house that you saw that was turned upside down. Where the first house that we showed, the kind of lime green house, it actually replaced the house that you saw further down.
Because in front of that house.
Right. It was exactly in that location. That house was there. And the house came up on top. It replaced it, and that house went down. And the other house that was two houses beneath that house that you saw overturned, including the one that took the lady down. So you have 4 houses. And there were 2 other houses. So in all 6 houses in that area were impacted. And then above that was another house, a gentleman, a really lovely house, a really nice pool, and it shaped it right at the end of the pool. It's like the pool is there and there is nothing between the pool and thing. Everything is just sunk down and it's gone. So it's very heartbreaking. And then later on, we can show some more pictures as well. But so that was in the Kalinago territory. And then we moved to the Casibros area, and that is where the bridge is completely.
Is it the Callis Bridge? The Callis Bridge, the bridge between the bridge that you Casibros, and then you have to go on to Morpo on this area there.
Right, the Morpo.
Right, that's right.
Area, we call that the Callis Bridge.
Callis Bridge, right. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to show now, and you will see from this bridge that you will see how much of the bridge has really it's gone.
But Doc, before you go to Cassie Bruce, just a little more on the Kalinago territory, yeah.
All right.
I wanted to chime in because one of the things that we saw was that the cleanup process was going on very, very slowly. It seems like there wasn't a lot of the cleanup would require trucks, and there were no trucks. In fact, it seemed like there was only one Chinese truck that we saw throughout our whole visit. I mean, we were there for several hours. Most of the cleanups were just done just enough for traffic to go through. And that was that seemed kind of unusual that in after such a massive, such a disaster, that you would have such a slow response. So that kind of we looked at it, and that was kind of worrying that it took that much time, and there was so few equipment actually operating to clear the area. Another thing we noticed was that, and the residents told us this, that when the roads were being built, they were actually trying to instruct the engineers as to some of the issues that they saw would happen based on the design of the road at the time. And a gentleman told us that he had spoken to the engineers, and basically the engineers were like, "What do you guys know? We are the engineers. We know what we're doing." But from what you could see, a lot of the water that came down came off the road, and it came off the road, and it just went down into homes and into on the lower side of the road. So a lot of the water came down. The area where we saw the guy with the pool, that when you stood in that area and you looked across, you could see a lot of slides. When you looked east, you could see a lot of slides had come down in different areas. And it was amazing to look, and people were saying, that they were worried that their homes were not going to be safe, even though nothing had happened to their homes. But when you looked at certain areas, you could see slight cracks in the dirt. And one of the things I also noticed were even above the road, there weren't a lot of trees that would hold up the banks. Normally you have trees that would fortify the earth, but a lot of it was grass. And so people were saying that the way that the road was cut, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm here criticizing, because the road actually is a nice road, but people were saying that just the way the road was cut, when they cut the banks, they didn't, if they had done them in a terrace type format, then it would have been safer. But the way that it was done, that was making it more prone to landslides. So it was, as we went through, a lot of people were sharing their views as to what they thought. In one area, even where Doug showed that house, all those houses went down, there was actually an underground stream running there. And one of the residents told us that they were unaware that stream was running there all along. And so that was running under the ground. And she said she feared, because she had a suspicion that there might have been an underwater source actually running that they could not see. But now you can see it's flowing. It's cut its own gully and it's going down, and it's actually pretty heavy. So it seems like a lot of different things contributed to the disaster that happened out there. So.
Yes, and indeed, so and we'll certainly have a much more in-depth discussion on that, because that is something of great interest. But I wanted to share a few more of the still photos that I took. This one, in fact, was actually on the Horseback Ridge Road, because what I did, I parked, for people that know the area, parked around the Pigwa, not the Pigwa, the Pigwa area there, and walked up the Horseback Ridge Road. And on the way, I encountered, this is one of 4 landslides. And so when I was going in the morning, I snapped this picture, because here you have the landslide, as you can see, pushed the car almost down a precipice. And when I was coming back in the afternoon, I met a few men trying to pull this car out of the mud and out of where it was. And the gentleman told me that yesterday they came hastily to get some stuff from the house, because they feared that the landslide would come, because there were buildings below where the sky is. So they parked the vehicle, ran to the house quickly to grab some clothing to leave, and by the time they came back, the landslide had come down and pushed the car off the road. But luckily, they were able to retrieve it. They were able to pull it back up. So that was one of the very interesting pictures that I snapped. That's another of the landslides that happened on the Horseback Ridge Road again. As I said, there were 4 of them that I had to cross to get up. and that's another one there. And I also want to show you earlier, you don't want to gloss over it, but well, that's a house, that's a famous house. But I also wanted to show you this very interesting picture here. Here is where I'm literally undermined. Again, another brick building in the Kalinago territory. As you can see, it is not sitting on, hardly sitting on anything. And we went to the house next door, and the house next door, the porch area has dropped about 2 feet down. So you just have a complete drop of the porch. The house itself seems to be intact, but where the porch was sitting, it dropped. And there is fear, of course, for the building, whether or not, more of it will actually cave in. So that's another very interesting photo there. Now, this one, this
was an interesting one.
I know if you can, I hope our listeners and viewers can see this.
What kind of topography would you tell us is there? Is that on a flat right now?
This is on a flat. This is on a flat, very unassuming hill. Very unassuming hill, as you can see there. And in fact, the majority of the landslides are like this one, just off the flat on the road. So it's not like it's a big valley or hill or anything, just like a gradual hill. This is the house that I talked about earlier, where the landslide came in at the back and filled up the house from the back, and of course destroyed this one. But a number of the landslides are like this, where just the trees and so on moving, and the land and the soil moving, moving forward. So that was a very interesting piece there. That's another of the landslides again. So this is more typical of the landslides that we saw. As you can see, it's covering the road, and there are several of those just throughout the Kalinago territory, just like this one that covered the part of the road and made it difficult for us not to be able to even walk across or drive across to go to Casibros. So that is, as of late this afternoon, we left there after 4. Casibros was still cut off from the Kalinago territory. And the Kalinago territory was still, in fact, isolated. They were still trying to clear from the Pigwa end. They were trying to clear it, but it was still not complete. So obviously no vehicles could actually move in and out as freely as they would. So that was another one. And this one takes us to the bridge. This is actually the bridge there in Casibros. And as you can see in this one there, in this bridge, here you have the ladder. So that's the road here. That was the road. And the part facing Casibros is completely gone. So now persons have to come down on this ladder.
To go to Mopo and to go to Good Hope and those places there. Yeah.
Yes. So that is the only means. So that bridge is gone. And it's really interesting to see what fix they have, what short-term fix they have. But it seems to me, just from looking at this, that it will take a number of days to get anything set up. So which means that the people of Good Hope, Tranto, Mopa, Pidi Sufrier, Sansove, they're all cut off at this time.
Yes, I really would like to make some. You have more photos you want to do?
Yes, let me see. You can, well, yeah, it's just different views. You can just take a quick view of this, and then we can.
We have to make some summary based on the observation. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Just different views to show you.
Yes.
Obviously, they were clearing the house because it's no longer livable. It's still intact, but unlivable.
A few things, yeah. Based on what I'm seeing there, and I will make those observations, and these observations seem to be relevant. And I suspect persons who are assessing and doing the evaluation right now will have to come to the conclusion of one of these 3 things I want to say there. One, I observe the soil type, and the soil type is strictly clay. In some instances, you have red soils, and so maybe a lot of iron there, ferrous iron there in that soil. But more importantly, you can see that these are clay soils, clay structure. It tells you that the particles in the soil are very, very, very small, they're very close, which means that it is not, water doesn't easily penetrate the soil. And so we have to wonder really what is happening. I know what happens in the rainy season is that it becomes a kind of sticky when wet. That's clay soil. These are some of the characteristics of clay soil. They become sticky when wet. And also when it's dry, they crack. And so let's say you have a lot of sun, the surface is left cracked. And obviously when water comes in now, it goes into the crack. And when that is swollen, it just bursts open in two. So that's one of the possibilities. Something else again to observe, particularly where you show the house on the flat by the roadside there, I noticed that prior to the rain coming, probably you had some NEP group of persons actually working on the roadside, and it looked like that soil was already exposed, particularly on the recent photo that you show. So they clean up a lot and they leave that soil very much exposed to the elements. So when you clean, that's why we always say maintain. The NEP workers, you see them cleaning until they don't see soil, they don't stop. That's a bad thing because at the edges and on the road edges, you can actually have that soil breaking up and so. So we have to look at managing these things very importantly. Very, very important. It's very, very crucial for that. I know you're going to make a point, and the other observation I'm making is that I cannot see the reason for, particularly when you all walk in the rural part of the villages, take for instance Horseback Ridge. It's not a case where you have over farming. If you had over farming, then you could say there was a heavy utilization of probably chemicals and so, and they're exposed. You saw good vegetation there prior to this slide. And I'm just trying to wonder, really, we have work to do in Dominica because it appears to me, after Hurricane Maria, then a lot of the lands that were exposed have been compromised. And it seems to me that we have to now, we have to have a quick response towards what you call our afforestation and reforestation program. And it seems to me that the land use policy needs to get into gear now with respect to how we go to get back those lands into shape. A lot of the lands, although they bear, but they do not have any, especially slope land, you do not have any trees that Dr. TC was saying earlier, to actually fortify the soil. Because once you have trees, you have roots growing, and so there's enough anchorage. So you have a little bit of buffer of that soil. So the soil is not easily erodable. And so a lot of things that I've observed here needs to get in serious. And I think now the technocrats in the division of agriculture, in the forestry division, in the environment, they need to really go out there and really make a strong assessment of how we are going to now plan our way forward with respect to preservation of lands that have been exposed. So I just wanted to make these 3 points to get it going.
Yes. So you're absolutely correct. I believe what is needed is some assessment, because from where we were, we observed some very deep cracks, and a number of persons are convinced, locals that we spoke to, they were convinced that there was an earthquake as well. That there had to be an earthquake to create those cracks, because even all the way down about from where we were in Atkinson, where the houses came, to all the way down to Salibert, past Salibert, Bataka area, Salibert there. That's about at least 3-4 miles or so. And you had cracks all there. In fact, our own president, Claudia Sanford, his house, we went to his home, and all around his home were huge cracks. You could see where it is not the usual movement of dirt. So for example, there is a crack where the grass is pushed up, which is contrary to water pushing against something.
Right.
It is curled, literally just curled and pushed it up. And you have this kind of very funny thing. And even the house, you saw a huge crack in the house. So we don't think it's the water that caused the crack in the house. So people believe that there may have been an earthquake because the way the soil moved and the way those cracks opened up, that is also a possibility there. And that is very concerning. And not only that, one gentleman, for example, told us that he lost 2 acres of passion fruit that he had just planted, 2 acres, all gone towards the sea. And we understand all the way down in Cassibros, in the area of Lambert Lewis. In fact, we were trying to get to that point, but there were several landslides in that area that were not cleared, so we could not make it up that way, because we were trying to pass through Cassibros to go towards Lambert Lewis's area where he lives, and also our former president, Isaac Baptist, where he lives. But Isaac tells us that there is a huge landslide that literally just wiped out even the Waitikubuli trail that passed beneath this property, completely wiped out. So there was a huge landslide, and that is almost a straight line with where the houses in Atkinson and Drizzle went down. So it seems to me that there may very well be some kind of a fault line along this coastal area that created that havoc and created that problem for the people yesterday.
Yeah, and so you know what? One of the things that really hit me when we were talking to the people, you know, based in the Atkinson area, in the Antristle area, it's a little different. But in the Saliba area, you know, the lands are not owned by people, so insurance is going to be a big issue over there because they don't own the property. And I'm not sure how the whole insurance issue is going to work in the Kalinago territory. In Antristle and Atkinson, obviously that's not part of the territory, so it's possible that their homes can be insured because they own the property. But in the Kalinago territory, that's a whole different thing. And again, I want to emphasize because this is really. You can put this, you can apply this to the Debosh debacle, you can apply this to the airport. That is what happens, part of what happens when you get people come into a community and just do things without talking to people in the community. Because you have people who have lived there all their lives and they know the nuances of what's going on in the community. They know when the water runs, when it rains, they know when the sun is shining hot, what happens. And so it's good to get information from the residents as part of the exploration before venturing into this type of projects. And people were complaining throughout the whole time we were there. In every stop that we made, we could hear it over and over again where people were saying, you know, we tried to tell them this. This one young lady that Doc showed her house with her porch had actually literally broken away from the house. She said she had spoken to the Garakan people how many times about the culvert that was leading away from the road and the water. She kept asking them, where is that water going to go? Because the way that they designed the culvert, there was no outlet for the water to go except into people's yard, into people's homes and into people's property. And she said she had approached them a few times and asked that question, and all they did was just build the start of the culvert and left it there. And the result was that the water went down, made its own channel. And of course, the result was, her porch, part of it was her porch actually leaving the house. So some of it was done by nature, of course. And as Doc said, there is a great possibility, or some possibility, I should say, because people think so, that there may have been an earthquake accompanying in all that rain. But there were also some mistakes made, some human errors that actually contributed to that. And it's readily apparent as to how that actually contributed to some of the disasters that we saw.
Yes, indeed. I want to add my voice to that. I think that is something that must be investigated, whether or not the road construction played a part in that disaster. And that's what it is. It's a disaster, and it's something absolutely that must be looked at. The other thing that struck me so is just the human part to this. There is this gentleman, for example, who was a victim of the Petit Savan disaster in 2015. He lost his home in Petit Savan. He relocated to the Kalinago territory, set up a very good bakery, right next to his home. And then he lost both his bakery and his home. That's the other house, not the green one. That's the blue house we saw overturned.
Right.
And the gentleman was just in a daze. You could see it had still not yet sunk in. He still was not. He was there, but he was not. He was trying to process all of that. And to the government's credit, I mean, we saw persons from the local government department that were there. They actually sent a team of psychoanalysts, I think they call them.
Mm-hmm. Psychologists.
Psychologists. They were actually on the ground with us. So I thought that was, we need to compliment that aspect of the government working in terms of coming there and providing the comfort, providing the assessment. So the local government was there, and they had their people, different competencies there, assisting the the victim. And I thought that was very good to do. It was a good thing. But at the end of the day, we have to look very closely at mitigation efforts because the rain is not going to stop. In fact, we're going to get more rain especially during the hurricane season. And the question is, are we prepared for this? We were lucky this time. There was no loss of life, but there's no guarantee this thing continues to happen. I mean, if you just see the way the soil just got detached, I mean, areas where you would never expect a landslide. Usually you look for a landslide way up in a hill, really high hill that comes down. You're talking about, even at your height level, just coming down.
Just come down.
I mean, I've never seen anything quite like this. Areas that you never expect that there would be a landslide. We're not talking about, no high area, probably or like 6-7 feet. That is it. And it's coming down. So we are going to be seeing a lot more of those types of things when we have this kind of weather system. But the question is, are we looking carefully at this? And this is a wake-up call for us in this country. It's a wake-up call because you have other communities like Good Hope. I always look at Good Hope as one of those communities that is so prone to that type of disaster. Bagatelle, Petit Savan. You have some areas, and you get this sense that not enough is being done to, one, ensure that these areas are protected, and secondly, where people build, they must take another look at where people put their homes after this disaster that we saw in the Kalinago territory. You must have another discussion about land use in Dominique, and it must be a serious discussion. A discussion that should be aimed at saving lives, because I can just imagine another such event, but this time probably not been as lucky as we were.
Yes, I
mean, and just to chime in on that, a large part of the responsibility going forward has to be placed on the planning authority. The people in the planning they have to get out there and they need to do their work and do the investigations and make sure before anything is built or any project goes forward that they are actually looking to see what, based on the location, if there are any or sufficient mitigation methods put in place, things that can prevent dangerous things like that. Then planning really have to get involved. And we hear about a lot of government project that goes on and planning is not involved in the process and they know nothing about it. But this definitely has to be a wake-up call that planning has to be on the P's and Q's. They have to get out there and actually look at these things, especially in disaster-prone areas like this, because like we said, almost the whole shelf, the lower shelf of the Kalinago territory seem to have been really destabilized by this disaster. And so anybody going to build in that area, the planning division really has to take a very, very good look at where they're going to build, how they're going to build, what they're going to build, and give really, really sound instructions as to how any type of edifice, any type of building that has to be erected must be built.
Yes, and you made 2 points earlier on, and I really want to come back to it. One, you talk about where it appears that some persons are of the belief that during the construction phase of this road, that probably some mistakes may have been made with respect to drains. And I think, based on what I've seen so far, there's no evidence that there was some drains, at least to let off water in a proper way. And so when you have torrential falls like that, what happened over the weekend, what you'll find is that you have a lot of water tributaries being developed, and then it pour out. And obviously that would have been a problem for undermining. But more importantly too, and then you mentioned knowing that, the Carib territory or Kalinago territory, by and large, is largely a communal affair. That too has to be looked at with respect to how it is that you go to have persons have some soft insurance and some other things. But importantly though, we have to understand that before, the Kalinago people were involved in a lot of what they could call agricultural practices, even around their houses. And then when there are things we can do at least to mitigate soil erosion in a sense. And we used to practice terracing before. Terracing. We used to have contour drains. These contour drains were seriously, based on the slope, 50 feet apart, you have a counter drain based on the gradient of that slope. And these were practices that we used to do. Terracing. So you see water, you step down the terrace. So when water comes down, it steps down and it doesn't go down in a rush. All these things are very good. The Kalinago people, they were skilled in doing what they call the vetiver arrangement. You know, on the counter itself, on the slope, they used to have at least from a certain distance, say 50 feet apart, 75 feet apart, they used to have that strip, that thick strip of vetiver. And as you know, vetiver is that kind of mulch that has that kind of, you know, combining roots, and it holds the soil in place. So it appears to me that the legal practices that we used to do to at least bring some kind of conservation measure around our dwelling homes, and so we have to revisit some of these things. And imagine, I can see one drain that you can say that was destroyed because it means that there was a lack of drain. And so in the meantime, we have our own private properties. We may think that we don't need an advice, but for persons like to say, let me go and build so I can see the view on the slope. I mean, everybody like to see the city, the view of the village. Yes, it's good, but you run the risk of actually erosion, especially runoff, when you have water that is unabsorbed and is now running on the surface. And so we have to get back to the practice of storm drain, vetiver, terracing. You have stone terracing. You can do it with stone. Some people, I know these days what they do, they put steel. They put galvanized roofing, the metal sheet on not on the platform of it, but on the side, and they lock it with steel. All these forms of terracing can happen to reduce the impact of water with respect to how water is being redirected. So, I mean, in the short term, that is it. But really, as Doc said, government really have to come now with a quick response and a way that we are going to respond to these things with respect to our land use policy, and all players are welcome on that point.
Indeed, Soso, and then also, you know, is a cautionary tale as well for landowners or for house owners, because it is possible that the owners had insurance. But what kind of insurance? I don't think they may not have been insured for earth movement or
natural.
Yes. Based on the peril, yes, you're correct.
Yeah, but probably they were not insured for that. So it is quite possible that they may go empty-handed because, they could have home insurance, but probably not planning for that.
Yes,
that type of activity. And you know already, these insurances, they look at the fine line, at the fine print. They're not going to say, well, your home was destroyed. They say, well, you did not take out a policy for earth movement or for a landslide, right? You have a policy for hurricane, for fire, but you don't have, it's not specified in the contract. So that is something, that homeowners, especially in those types of areas, should have to start thinking about, And I think that's the worry that some of them have, that they may not be getting insurance benefits out of that, and they've lost their homes forever.
Yes, and somebody saying there, that's a question, and probably makes sense. How about the blasting behind that is done, behind the bush there, the Kalinago territory or born in that area? How does this impact the neighborhood, land masses, and could that have contributed to movement of soil? It's not impossible of the pressure.
Yeah, the earth is connected, I mean, I don't know the science of these things.
I don't know. I will stay away from it for now.
That understands it, but I mean, the earth is connected, and depending on the depth of digging. Because, like you said, if you were to draw a line, just draw a line across, and the distances apart, yet the similar impact in all of those areas, all the way down to Casibros, across the Kalinago territory, down to Atkinson and Antrizo. Just the same type of earth movement, the same type of cracks. Who knows? It's possible.
But gentlemen, I want you all to react to this one too, because now that this event has happened, it is in the post stage now, and you must understand that the water system, of course, is compromised. And one will say, well, what are you talking about? Yes, remember, we don't have a central system where you're actually extracting sewage, and then all the houses you're talking about are affected. Somehow there are seepage now in the soil. Now, there could be some pipeline that I could burst, and obviously some sewage system, the sewage and waste could have, it's possible to enter into that water system. I know the WASCO is proactive, and I'm sure probably were necessary, they would have disconnected because
Well,
the
they
water
have.
system is
There is no
compromised.
water. There is absolutely
Right,
no
right.
pipe-borne water currently.
So that too has to be assessed before we actually because you have diseases like cholera and so that you could get through feces, human waste and so. So I mean we are really in a situation there. And let me just and I'm going to give you a chance to react because I heard the Prime Minister and he said, look, people must now embrace each other for the few days. Let me tell him it's not for the few days. So we can't need to get together forever, not for the few days. And I suspect he forgot to say one thing. Mr. Prime Minister, you said about your government is going to restore at least people's life to normalcy. It's a good thing. We want to see that happen. We are all for it. People got affected. I mean, it's heart-wrenching when you see some persons are without a home tonight. Their customers putting on the television, relax, drink a coffee, go on their pot, take the breeze. Discomfort is out of it now. Mr. Prime Minister, you have done it when we had a bigger disaster. Some persons got and others did not get. You forgot to say that the government is willing to help and help all and sundry, irrespective to where politically they lean. Mr. Prime Minister, this time we don't have no time for selectivity. Everyone who is affected in this crisis should get help. Should get help. Because the point is now, we cannot undergo that in Dominica. We are already too much divided. And it's not for people to come together for a few days, but for people to know, be each other's keeper, as the good Bible said. And the good book. Your reaction, gentlemen.
Yes. Well, obviously that is the preferred way. I mean, Dominica has become so divided, and we know where that started. But when you have disasters, you know, it tends to bring people together. And someone told us in the Kalinago territory, I think it was our president, who said that one thing he can say about the territory is that when something like this happens, people come together and they support each other and they help each other. And you could see that throughout. You know, people even where the house was upside down, there were people helping to remove items from the home and carrying it up in the vehicles. So you could see that there was a community engagement with the people that were actually affected. But that has as you said earlier, that cannot be something for the short term. That has to be something that continues throughout. It has to be that we know who our neighbors are, and so when there's a disaster such as this, there's no seam. It's seamless. People can actually just go in and help because they know the person, they've been talking to them, everybody knows each other. And so I remember during Maria, there was this gentleman, he was really harassing his neighbor quite a bit. And, his neighbor was, there's always friction between these two neighbors. And they lived right next to each other and they're always in problems. But when Maria hit and he looked left and he looked right, guess what? He had to run to the home of that same neighbor. So that's why that's important. That's important that this not be a short-term thing because you don't know when the next disaster is going to hit. And so you have to keep that bond between you and your neighbors, your relatives, and just the whole community as a whole has to be together in order to be able to go through this type of traumatic thing,
Yeah, and then also, if anything, this disaster reminds us that we are all vulnerable. I mean, as you said, Soso, the families, they were relaxing just a couple of minutes before. The house owner, one of the owners told us that he first felt the slight movement as if something was not right. And when he looked outside, he saw the earth was kind of moving already. And then he was able to get his family out, just in time. And then the other guy, the same gentleman lower down, who I talked about, who got hit twice from Erica, and now this one, he threw his stuff into his car and jumped into his car. And while he was driving up, the ground was falling off from the road. And now that road is completely gone.
Gone.
Wow.
It's completely gone. He was able to drive away just in time, So it shows that it can impact anybody at any time. And even when, you think of the many persons who were impacted, that family that just happened to have built their house in that area that we showed, and it came down. You know, they said during the rain they had to go there and cut the mango tree that was above, because they
Right.
feared that if the soil came down, the mango tree would fall and break the house. So they had to cut the mango tree. You know, I'm saying this to say that this kind of thing can happen to anybody, anywhere, at any time. And this idea of community, this idea of unity, is something that we should have. And I think it is really wrong-headed when a government uh, becomes, chooses one over the other. I think that is wrong, because everybody pays their taxes, all are responsible Dominican citizens, and they should be equally catered for by the government. And we hate to see a government that is choosing and that is being selective where that is concerned. When there is a disaster, if you have a certain criteria for support, that should go to every person that is deserving,
Across the board.
every victim across the board. And the question should not be who you're going to vote for to get that. And that is something I think that we need to absolutely stamp out. It does not help us. It does not do us any good. At the end of the day, it shows that we're all equal. We're all in this together, and choosing and selecting people is not helping at all. It's not.
Yeah, you are correct. And so what you're saying there, it appears that some people have not dug their foundation deep enough. You got to hit the bedrock. I am not of the view that it has to do with foundation this time.
There is no bedrock. There is no bedrock.
There's no bedrock. So they would have to go down a few thousand feet to catch anything.
We could see way down. I mean, this thing made a huge chasm. You can see,
Right.
and there is just dirt. There's no rock.
Oh, wow, something is wrong. But
It's just dirt. But what I think should probably be done, and is that before people build where there is just dirt, they need to reinforce it. Probably reinforce the foundation with
and have retaining walls as well. Yes.
and compact it and so on. I think
Compact.
that is what needs to be done before the house is put. So don't just put the house in the dirt at present. That's one of the lessons I think that will be learned.
It could be, and that's where we need the guidance, because remember they must have gotten planning approval, irrespective to their land or not. But gentlemen, as a government in waiting, we have seen over the years that we have actually the public works department has been actually totally eliminated in the whole restoring of order with respect to disasters and so. And this is a time when the public works the department could have been deployed in various constituencies. And even so, not just operating from roads where you have, the main public works area, but at least decentralizing it to probably the northern part and probably the eastern part. I think we had that debt as well. How important that is, because I'm still of the view that we need a public works department. And Doc, I know you said that over and over, that this is something that you have to revisit. And I really believe as a maintenance arm of the government, we need that public work to respond as quickly as possible under obligation. As soon as something happens, then we should be right here. I mean, I'm not saying the private guys will not have to come and do certain things, but really, I need your reaction on this, gentlemen, because it's becoming important.
So it's interesting that you raised that, because there is the issue of the public works that certainly when there was a public works, those issues will be tackled. But there was also a time when private owners, like of the backhoes and so on, within the villages, would avail their services, but that was absent. And that's the reason why the road between Castle Bruce and Kalinago territory is not cleared. The only movement we saw was on the other end going towards Pigwa, and it was the Chinese that were engaged in clearing. The Chinese, not locals. So we asked persons who know some of the owners of equipment, and says, why it is that you're not out there with the equipment? And the answer to us is that they have not received any support from the government. And secondly, they have been owed. They're owed money by the government.
Wow.
So they're not going to put out their equipment if they have been owed. And that is something else that people are saying they're not prepared to help. And they have this real sense. Because imagine this. Imagine if this government had sustained and had supported our local truckers and so on. You would have an abundance of dump trucks, right? Because one of the reasons why a lot of those slides have not been cleared as well is that if you're to clear them, you can't just throw the dirt on the other side of the road.
You cannot do that. You cannot.
Because there are homes there. This dirt has to be loaded onto a truck and carted away. The trucks are not there. The trucks are owned by the Chinese. And that to me is where the problem is as well. Our local people have not been empowered. And where they do have equipment, they're not willing to make it available to the government because they have had some bad experience with this government.
And so as I mentioned at the top, the whole time that we were there, I only saw one Chinese truck. That was it. I came up to Pegua, and at the first slide, they were clearing the first slide, and I was able to get through. And by the time we left in the afternoon, they had just finished clearing that slide and were progressing to the second slide. Again, they only had one truck there that I saw. But throughout the village, all the walk throughout the village, you saw no equipment, and you saw no trucks at all. And I found that to be very interesting because it seemed like such a disaster when you had so many slides. And I mean, it wasn't only 2 slides. There were slides every so many thousand feet. There was a slide of some sort, and it was just cleared just enough, probably by hand, I'm not sure, just enough for a vehicle to pass. But the rest of the slide was actually sitting in the road. So I think if you have a public works division that can react when these things happen, immediate reaction with the equipment, whether it be the backhoe, the trucks, you get them there and you get them moving. As Doc said, one of the reasons a lot of the slides weren't cleared was because of you couldn't just pick up the dirt and throw it over. In fact, on the second big slide from Pegua, they were trying to do that, and the owner of the property stopped them. She said, "Wait a minute, you're dumping all of this onto my property. This dirt and trees and branches, this has to go someplace else." And so they were forced to stop and just cut a little area just enough for vehicles to pass. Whereas if you had the equipment, i.e. the trucks that were able to do that, then you wouldn't have had such a problem. But this has been a problem with this government. I remember when we had, even in the garbage, with the garbage debacle, you had people with their private trucks taking out the garbage all over the country. And then they ended up stopping because the government had owed them how many thousands of dollars that they had not paid, So people are now not willing to use the equipment. Yes, it would be to assist the community. Yes, it would be a good thing to do. But here they are, they've used all their resources. They used the diesel and the tires and paid insurance on their vehicles and licensing. And then with nothing coming back, they've just decided, hey, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Let the government do it on its own. And so the government doesn't have the equipment because they've abandoned public works. So they're now dependent on the only entity that they've brought in to do everything in this country, and that's the Chinese, and that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, so people are left
because the gentleman who raised the concern about the blasting, I'm just thinking about it again. From where the blasting is to where the landslide came down, we saw those cracks. It's not very far. It's probably about 4 to 5 miles.
It's back of that,
It's about 4 to 5 miles, and it's really a straight line. If you look at where Crap Wall is, where the blasting is taking place, it's really on the Pegua coast. And if you were to draw a straight line from there to, you could literally get a straight line. So who knows? The blasting could have contributed because these deep cracks that we saw developing, it does not seem to be normal. It could be from an earthquake, but it could very well be from that blasting as well. Who knows? And then the homes as well. How do you explain? It's not water causing those cracks in the walls. It cannot be the water that's causing the cracks in the buildings themselves. So that is something that's
a good point. We'll take some. Let's take some of the comments there right now. One person is saying a responsible government would have established what they call early warning system, strictly enforce seismic building code. That maybe could be a point because oftentimes we hear of a trough happening, but we are not hearing that, people should seek higher ground or seek safety because it's just rain. We don't have to do these things. Early warning system could be a heavy microphone system attached to the church, attached to the resource center, and it echoes and let everybody know that is the system that tells you have to run. But anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, but so talking about that as well, and that is something we always learn, not to be critical, but the first announcement came from the Met Office at 8:30 in the morning, yesterday morning, and that was only after already on MO and other media we were hearing about the rain and the potential. So it seems that we were reacting. Nobody within the Met Office informed Dominica that there was going to be a trough system.
Right.
You would have rain from 8 o'clock the night before to 4 o'clock the following afternoon, non-stop.
That is correct.
None of that. The first one was 8:30 in the morning after rain had been falling already for more than 12 hours.
Yeah. I was going to say for whole 12 hours.
So something is not right about it. That should have been picked up by the Met Office. People should have been warned to expect this, because when I quickly Googled in the early morning, when I Googled, I realized, but it's rain, and it was like, there'll be continuous rain, and then I found that was in fact a tropical system that was coming through. So that I'm sure that this warning signs. So I'm saying that better can be done. Not only an early warning system, but certainly something to give people enough time to take action, that they might move to safer areas and so on. And we thank God again that a lot of that happened during the day. It could have been a different story. Imagine if you're in your home at nights and you are feeling things, but you cannot see the earth moving. You would think it's just a normal, probably, something normal. And before you know it, you could be dead, you could be swallowed up. So that is something I think that we have to absolutely look very, very closely at. And
they need to annex the auxiliary information with respect to people should seek higher ground with the actually broadcast of the weather system. Somebody saying that additionally it would be good to invest in sustainable land management like reforestation to prevent landslide. We said that earlier on, and as we said that, gentlemen, you will agree, and Doc, you mentioned it earlier. Don't underestimate what you said. Remember the dumping of the soil, very important. I think right now they should really try to identify a dumping site, not just dumping for dumping's sake, but identify a dumping site. Even later, we can even retrieve the very same soil, probably to do backfilling, and so it can become into a commercial, area where you actually look at it, you fence it, you buffer it, you put the soil there. People want to pay for soil, they come, they have a dumper, they pay for it, and they go. Somebody could get employed by the gate. These things we have to look at sustainable ways of doing things. So we can use back our soil for backfilling when a wall is being built, when people want to do certain things, backfilling and so forth. Somebody saying that the guy who was on our program last week, he mentioned that his house was being, or his area has been affected by the blasting. So it's possible that, the blasting being done not far away from the other areas could well be the case, and so forth and so forth. Well,
sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think you were referring to our guest last week who lives in Copperhall. He lives in Copperhall, and he's very close to the action. But it is not impossible if all of that blasting that it could impact, it could go 4 or 5 miles down. I'm sure it's not a far distance.
Yes. So, gentlemen, we are already out of time. Let me just say, for your closing remark, Dr. TC, you go straight ahead with your closing remark, followed by Doc, and put down the curtain on the program.
Yes, Doc. Yes, so it was a very interesting day. It was, like I said at the onset, it was heart-wrenching to see what transpired there in the Kalinago territory in Atkinson and Antrezo. It took a lot of walking and climbing over debris, but talking to the people and really getting to hear the story about what happened. Thank God again that there was no loss of life, but it's going to be very difficult for a lot of the people going forward. Those who lost their homes, those who lost their farms, those who lost their produce, and even those who they might not have lost anything right now, but where they are seems to be a very unstable area. And so they're going to have to start thinking, people like, our president, who they're going to have to start thinking about moving and rebuilding someplace else. That's not an easy thing to do, especially, for people who are already up in age. The house that Doc showed where the slide came down next to the road and all the dirt filled the home, those were aged people. Those are ageable people. And so having to regroup and restart is going to be very difficult for people at that age. So it's not going to be an easy task, but hopefully, as Doc said, and you said, Soso, the government will be blind in the fact that when they're assisting people, they won't be looking at colors, but they'll be looking at the needs of the people in the area and afford them the help that they need based on their need and their requirement. And my heart goes out to all the people out there. I mean, this was a lot of rain. It was unexpected. It was unanticipated. There was no warning, and so people were really caught with their pants down in a lot of areas. But you know how it is. Life goes on, and we just hope and pray that these people will be able to recover and that things will work out for them in the long run. Thank you, Soso, for being here with you tonight.
Dr. Thomson?
Yes, indeed. You know, my hat goes out, as Dr. TC indicated as well, my hat goes out to the many persons who've been directly or indirectly impacted. It took a great deal of effort on our part to get to the Kalinago territory today, having to scale these landslides and walk through the mud and everything else. But it was well worth it. It was well worth the effort to be able to just talk to and console the victims of this disaster. My hat obviously goes out as well to the entire communities of Deepa, Toronto, Good Hope, Petit Soufriere, San Sauvé. These are areas that have been completely cut out. People's lives have been upended. They no longer have ease of access out of where they are. Again, if the government had done as it promised and built the Rosalie Petit Soufriere Road, then that would not even be a discussion, because it would be easy. They'll be able to use that other route to get out into town and elsewhere. We were very lucky on the eastern coast. As I was up in my village yesterday, listening to all the rain and fearing I would not be able to get into town. We were lucky in that I counted 6 landslides between Grand Fort and Pocassé. 6 landslides. Thankfully, only one that really posed a serious problem. But thankfully, some individuals came out very early, cut off the trees and were able to clear the way so that, the traffic could flow at least through one lane. So we're very thankful of those volunteers who did that on their own, to allow us to be able to traverse, but it could have been a lot worse knowing that we are so prone in that area on the southeast coast of this, and as well, the Rosalie Bridge. I keep talking about the Rosalie Bridge. Is the government waiting for that bridge to break up to do something about it? We very well could have a situation that we saw in Cassibrus with the breakup of that bridge in Cassibrus. That bridge at Rosalie continues to be pounded. I saw a tree the size of the bridge wedged up against the bridge. That's the force it came down with, and it is stuck there now. It is, literally stuck. The water had receded this morning, but that huge tree that stretched all across the bridge was up against the bridge. And you have that, and you wonder how much more that bridge can take in terms of just this constant pounding, and the force that water has, So, we need a new bridge, obviously, in that area, and the government should absolutely look at replacing that bridge with a better bridge, probably allowing more of the water to flow underneath the bridge and so on, and probably a higher bridge and, a sturdier bridge as well. These are things that needs to be looked at, and I think the government's slipping, and I hope after today, that's a wake-up call as we prepare again. The hurricane season begins in 2 months, and seems to me at least that we are woefully unprepared for the hurricane season. That is a wake-up call for us. That's a warning for us, especially as we expect a very dangerous hurricane season this year. And the government of Dominica has to do better to ensure and to guarantee the safety and the well-being of its citizens.
Yes.
So I'm sorry. I wanted to make one more.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No problem.
Yeah. We didn't mention. I didn't mention Marigot, but Marigot did get some slides. There were some slides in Marigot, by the bayfront, by the bayside, and so there were some detours. There was also a slide in Dam. So Marigot did get some slides. Wesley was lucky. There was nothing except in the airport area. There was a lot of rain, but going through Marigot, I did see a few slides, and some had been played up very early, and the others were being worked on. So I just wanted to put that in there because I traversed through there as I was going, making my way from Wesley to town.
Yes. So let me just remind thank you, Dr. TC, for this. Let me just remind our persons that you can continue to support the United Workers Party. You see on the screen, and for just hearing it, mobile banking ID is 555-2242, and the account that goes in this is 1005636. You can also go online, uwp-dominica.com, click on donation, and here you go. Give us something tangible. Give us something that we can feel that we can use to develop and to continue to educate the people of Dominica. Just to repeat again, our mobile banking ID 555-2242, account number 1005636, our website uwp-dominica.com, click on donation, and here you go. Gentlemen, let me just really thank you for being proactive. Let me just thank you for the work that you've done. So far, so good. I can tell you it has been amazing. From since morning, you all are on the ground to tonight and even reporting to the Dominican people. This is really, truly an opposition government in waiting to take over the reins of government. And people have to be reminded that we are serious about governing this country, and they must give the United Workers Party a chance to govern this country. So let me commend you for the work that you do and to continue to work in the interest of the people. I think what we have heard tonight is a testimony of people who are caring for people and have people at heart. And let me say, for those who have really suffered loss, I ask God's blessing upon you and to continue to just believe in your God and to do what you have to do. For those who have contributed to our program, and to say thank you. We have touched on the post happenings of what took place with respect to the torrential rains. And gentlemen, you have done an awesome job. And the best way we can put on the curtain on this program is by reading what I call somebody just text there. The Portuguese island of Madeira, which is prone to landslide and heavy rain, the regional authority employ a comprehensive range of structural engineering. So that may well be the case that we need, and somebody saying lower, ecological and civil protection measures to prevent and mitigate landslide damage. After independence, we are running to abandon a republic without a leadership. And let us be reminded that we have to get confirmed for this government to get out from office. We need to all get confirmed and to ensure that we have one agenda, is to remove this government. This government is a stumbling block in the way of development, true development to impact on the lives of Dominicans. Look at that, a basic thing today, a basic thing over the weekend. Our Dominican men, they are not prepared because they have not been paid. All foreigners are going home with so much money. The Prime Minister is on record stating that person $242 million left the country some time ago, and he had another big thing, $242 million left our shores, but he cannot tell you how much has stayed there for Dominicans to empower themselves, to get new trucks, to get new vehicles, to put new tires in shredder trucks, to have gasoline on standby, so that when disasters of such happen, that we can respond in quick time. So, gentlemen, again, I want to applaud you for the great work that you've done. Kudos to all. But more importantly, we ask God to continue to shower his blessings upon all those who have suffered through this tragic time of ours. So have a good night, gentlemen. Thank you. Until next time, we say good night. This has been Real Talk with our political leader, Dr. Thomson Fontaine, and our International Secretary, Dr. MacDonald Thomas. Have a good night to all. May God bless.
Good night.
Good night.